that we are not here to promote the spirit of fear. We are here to educate, to inform, to offer a place where you can ask your questions and hopefully get them answered. By being informed, it puts us in a place of power, and it drives out fear and it promotes courage and unity into our community. So again, I want to thank you so much for being here. If you stand this morning, there's a lot of them to come up and do pledge and prayer.
Okay, would you all stand, please? Okay, I'm going to begin with prayer. God, we praise you and thank you that you are ever present in our lives and you are with us tonight in this meeting. We thank you that we live in a country where we can meet and seek truth. We pray that that truth will be shared tonight. We thank you for these leaders in our community and their willingness to address our concerns. We pray for all of our leaders in our country, in our state, and in our community, that they will seek your guidance in all decisions they make. We ask that you would shine your light on all evil in our land and bring your perfect justice and your perfect timing and way so that you may be glorified. We ask for protection and wisdom for all of our men and women serving in law enforcement and in our military. In closing, I think I'm supposed to do the pledge first, but in closing, we want to thank you for the men and women who have served in the military that stand with us tonight. They took an oath to our Constitution to secure inalienable rights given by you. We thank you for their sacrifice and for their family sacrifice, as well as the men and women throughout our history who have sacrificed even with their lives to stand strong for our freedoms. We pray for your blessings and we seek to do your will. All right, can we say the pledge together, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you're a veteran, you can remain standing.
And I just want to recognize all public or elected officials that are with us tonight. If you would please just stand right now so we can recognize you. Come on, guys, I know you're here. Public or elected officials. I see Mike Facey over here. There's Bo back there, Bo Melvin. Thank y'all for being here. I've never done anything like that to be shy, but okay. Whatever. I just want to thank our board of We the People Bayou community and our volunteer members who are the most amazing volunteers on the planet. All this happens because of our volunteers and because of our generous donors. And if you are a partner, thank you. If you're not a partner, tonight is the night to sign up, become a member. And we have been so blessed to be able to increase everything that we're doing. And one of the things we're doing is upgrading our software and our website. And I will tell you there have been some growing pains with that. But it's a good problem to have, and we're working on it. So if you would, be sure to go to the website, wtpbayou.org. And even if you're not ready to become a partner, a paying partner, we want you to sign up to stay in touch. That way you get information from us, valuable information. And if you signed up before tonight and you have not been receiving information, we're working on that. So we know it, we see you, we hear you, and we're working on that. So thank you so much for that. Also, if you got a ticket, this is just a little hack to sign up easily. So if you got a ticket like this, you just scan it with your phone camera, and you can sign up to be a member. Also, a lot of our members would like to be able to have We the People recognition as they go out into the community. So we have printed up these wonderful business card that you can take some of these. They're on the back merch table, and you can put your name on it. So if you're telling somebody about what's going on, or if you want to invite them to come to one of the meetings, just put some of these in your pocket or in your purse, and they make a great conversation starter. Also, when you sign up, you get a We the People yard sign, and we're on a mission to find as many yard signs as we can around town. We're going to start posting that. So y'all be sure and sign up and get a yard sign when I'm all over. Okay, make sure I do not forget anything. If you want to join tonight, but you'd like to do cash or a check, just go to one of the tables, either the lobby or the merch table, and you just fill out your information and pay cash or check. Some people would rather do that with credit cards. That's totally fine. Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bud.
Yes, and again, I want to welcome you this evening. I'd like to introduce our speakers that we have with us tonight. Mr. Lawrence DeHart, Terrebonne Parish United Food Bank, Executive Director. Please raise your hand on anything there you are. Senior Analyst and Director of State Outreach at the Center for Security Policy. We have Chief of Police Bryan Zeringue from Thibodaux. And Terrebonne Parish Sheriff Tim Soignet. And also Senator Mike Facey, he's one of our state senators. We have Ms. Danielle Walker here tonight also to offer any information on legislation. She can help with Mike and help her either way. Between the two of them, we can get that. We do put index cards on your seats, so if you have a question that you'd like to have answered, you will write it on the index card, and if you would please hold it up. One of the members will come by and take that card from you and send it to me, and I will try to answer as many questions as we can after they share their part for you. So we'll begin first with Mr. Lawrence DeHart. Yes, so there's a mic right in front of you there.
Bonjour, comment ça va? C'est bien? A little hometown cooking there. What do we got? Oh, okay, one more slide. First off, make a little easy on me. I get to be the guinea pig, I guess. For those of you who do not know, TCU is actually the hometown food bank. We've been here since 1987. Where that is important, we are made up of the citizens of this region, just like you are. We have been supported by the citizens of this region. We serve the citizens of this region, and we go ahead and this is our home. We're not just coming in. And one thing I'm very proud of before I go on is we're not a governmental agency. And what I mean by that is we are not part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. What TCU does, when we give to people, we see people. We don't use the government to tell us who to give food to, what the rules are, and what it is that we do. So I'm most proud of that. It's our 37th anniversary year. In a couple of days, it's going to be 38. This year we'll serve some 36,000 people. I don't like seeing that number, guys, because we survive off of grants, donations, and the love of people in this community. And I'm going to embarrass them a little bit. Our patron saint is State Senator Mike Facey, who for years has supported us above and beyond, and even before he became a state senator. And a lot of the resources and our capabilities we have are because of him. So let's give him a round of applause. Like I said, we've been part of not only the Terrebonne Parish Emergency Operations Center, but recently I have been honored to be part of the Sheriff's Emergency Response Team. So it's a situation that we have a little bit of experience in dealing with storms and such. Next slide. Next, okay. I've been associated with TCU since 2015. First as a volunteer, and yes, we need volunteers, either that or writing checks, okay? And I've served as a board member and as president of the board now and exec. We've grown from serving at my time over 7,000 people a year to over 36,000. We're going to hand out over 1.7 to 2 million pounds of food this year. So we know a little bit about feeding people in an emergency. So we got a little bit of experience with that. I've overseen operations for our numerous storms, COVID and Ida, and one of the things I'm very proud of is we never shut down, even in COVID, where 80% of the food bank shut down an operation and we didn't. And for Ida, I can tell you, me and my now wife actually were in the middle of the storm, 100-mile-an-hour plus winds, bringing emergency supplies to the Civic Center where people showed up unexpectedly. So to say that we have a little experience about the subject we're talking about is a little bit of an understatement. We can answer the questions. One thing, if you want the truth, you're going to get it, and I'm not going to candy coat it. Is that okay? People, that's what you got to do. Biggest question. Do we have migrants that come through Terrebonne Lafourche Parish? The answer is yes. Last year, in 12 months, the TCU Food Bank served over 3,000 of them to come through. We do so out of our Christian values and because we just see people. And so right now, in the first quarter of this year, we're looking to eclipse that. But again, because we see them and we will service them, we will probably eclipse that number. If there is, should there be civil unrest in this parish? Let's go to the next slide. Outside of natural disasters, there's a reasonable risk of interruption of human resources due to terrorist activities. That is not only a possibility, but if you listen to several government officials, including Director of Homeland Security and Director of the FBI, that answer is unequivocally, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So at Food Bank, me and my staff, we have regular meetings, we plan, we come up with special packages specifically for these items, and to work with Tim and other government officials to plan for such events. So this is not something we are unexpected. Can we go to the next slide? Oh, it is, thank you. In the last 2 weeks, this is the last 2 weeks, the Department of Defense released a statement saying that there are at least 2 foreign governments or regimes, groups with credible evidence that they have plans to interrupt or affect the water supply in the United States. Not my words, theirs. The director of the FBI expects events that are similar to the terrorist attack in Russia. So we have to take that very, very big. In the last 2 years, over 10 million migrants have been allowed in this country. Of that number, it's estimated that over 40%, that's over 4 million, are military-aged men with no attached families. I want the truth. With 4 million military-aged men, if just 5% are bad guys, that's more men than originally invaded Ukraine. That's serious. Because the TCU prepares its staff with food packages along with special protocols, needless to say, it's imperative that everyone have food, and I'm going to tell you why, and water stores in their own homes. Next slide. Sorry, it's a tough number, but I'm going to be very real with you guys. TCU, probably, we have over 350 pallets of food, several million pounds in stores. Most grocery stores today that you see, Rouse's and some of the other ones, they don't have big warehouses like they used to. The days of these large warehouses and large food stores in the back of the supermarkets don't exist, because unfortunately in the real world, they get regular shipments of 18-wheelers full of food on a regular basis. Once, twice, sometimes 3 times a week, depending upon the store. They just don't exist. So, if we add up all the food that's at TCU, and all the food, there are other pantries that actually store food that are not part of our family, that are there, and taking that into consideration. If a disaster started, or emergency food, unfortunately, if we took the normal package that we normally give out, in one day or one time, we could feed at best 8,000 people. There are 111,000 people in the parish of Terrebonne. There's 92,000 in the food. The food could actually end up a little worse simply because they have fewer food banks, meaning less food are available. And if certain events are going on, let me ask you a question. Do you really think it's reasonable to expect other agencies to come in and to deliver food? We are part of an organization called DRRN, Disaster Regional Relief Organization. It's by invitation only. We're the smallest organization as part of it. We're the only food bank. This is the big guys. This is Convoy of Hope, Samaritan's Purse, God's Big Crew, the Minutemen, all major organizations that we have literally at our beck and call. And I can tell you in conversations, in certain events, they're not coming because they're mostly volunteers. So we have to prepare to be more self-reliant. Okay, this one's fun. I like that. Okay, and not in school, we should read sometimes. Okay, which one can we last longer on? Without food or water? Correct. Food. Water is something that we need more of. If you're like me, I probably could go a little longer than y'all because I've stored up a little extra over time. It doesn't mean I don't get hungry. Most people don't realize, though, you need 3 types of water, okay? One is drinking water, the other one is house water, and the third one is toilet water. Drinking water, pretty self-evident. Most people have a couple of cases of bottles in their house. First question that comes up, but I see an expiration date on it. Water doesn't expire. The packages do, but not the water. But my advice is 2 or 3 cases of water is not an ample supply. What most people do forget is about what I call house water. House water is things that you need in the house that need to be reasonably clean. It's not really designed for human consumption. Well, let me ask you a question. Anybody wash dishes? Okay, that's that. Okay, anybody decide they want to take a bath? There's one before I came, so y'all are all safe. So this is water that needs to be reasonably clean, but it's not designed for consumption. This is actually the largest pool that you would need. Now, there are easy ways to get this, and I'll come back to that one. And the last one is toilet water. I know that doesn't sound real fun, but anybody remember when the water mains broke in Jackson, Mississippi? Biggest problem they had was flushing their toilets. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and some of the items that will help with this. Drinking water, that one's fairly easy. You know, some of the sources for drinking water we take for granted that are in our own backyard. In talking to you tonight, I looked at ways that none of us have to go out and spend $5,000, $6,000. We got a real good water filtration system that they sell for $60,000. Okay, that's not our market. So what I'm going to do is give you some easy ways. Number 1, drinking water. Let me go back to the last one. I need help. Okay, thank you. Drinking water. Anybody got a pool in their backyard? Okay, anybody got a hot tub? Okay, these are with minimal cleaning. They can be fit for drinking water. The other thing is if you want to, so that's the sources that you may not have and realize. I'm going to tell you that even though we get water from Mississippi River and Bayou, the filtration system is above what most of us can buy. That is not acceptable drinking water. It does have another purpose, like toilet water. Now, if you want house water, some of the best sources of house water, and you can do so very inexpensively, rainwater. And how you collect it is, you go find two of these, you see a lot of these blue plastic drums, you connect it up to your downspout, and you would be surprised somehow that does it. Downspout in, or a little water spigot in, and you would be surprised. And that water is acceptable for what we talked about, cleaning dishes, taking a bath, and so on. Toilet water. Let's get back to house water, I'm sorry. There's another source, and my friends at the water board are not going to like this one, but it's very different. In the fact that fire hydrants. If somebody comes and turns on a fire hydrant, the problem with fire hydrants is it's such high pressure that if you go fooling around and you take the cover off and you try, you're going to find the water's going to shoot 60 feet off. So that can be a hazard. But is that an acceptable source for house water? Yes, it is. The nice thing about that is this fire hydrants come from, everybody knows big water towers. It's not gravity fed. So we don't need pumps, we don't need electricity to get it to your house. So water is actually a little bit more important than food in this case. But again, you got to think about 3 dimensions here. Drinking water, house water, and toilet water. Toilet water is really easy. You grab a bucket, I'm very fortunate, I got a canal in my backyard with a rope. Throw it in the bucket, and you get there and you just pour it in and you flush. That's it. Food. I'm going to upset some of you. Canned foods versus MREs. Let's get to the truth. MREs are lousy. They are not healthy for you. And as a matter of fact, the United States government, dealing with healthy soldiers, does not allow their soldiers to be on MRE protocols for more than 7 days. They are on MRE for 7 days, and I will tell you that they have to get off and eat something again. My source on that is a command general, a major, and actually a command sergeant who spent 3 tours in foreign lands on us. So, pretty reputable source on that. Canned goods. I like canned goods. Why? It's easy to act. It's not going to break the bank, guys. Okay? When you're going to go to the thing, and instead of picking up 3 cans of green beans, which you're going to eat per week, get 6 and only eat 3. Go to Sam's. Easy to pick up a 6-pack or a 12-pack, and you can store it. The one thing that's very interesting about canned goods versus MREs is MREs, believe it or not, have a very short shelf life. The other problem with MREs, high carbs, high salt, high preservatives. Okay, if you have minimal health problems, they are going to create problems for you. Me and the EOC have gone around for years. Well, if you ever notice for storms, they give out ice and MREs, right? Talk to my friends at Terrebonne General, how they feel about that. It's not good for you guys to be on these things for weeks, especially if you're a senior citizen, you have high blood pressure, or diabetic, or some others that have stomach issues. It's not good for you. Even if you go buy the aftermarket ones, the ones from Public that they sell, it's a 6-month thing, it's okay on a short-term basis, or an absolute emergency, but I don't recommend it. Canned goods, on the other hand, almost last until, I won't say infinity, but they last for years. You have to read the label. You're going to see a best buy date on them. There is no such thing as a government-mandated expiration date on these things, on all food. The only thing that they require that on is baby food and formula. That's the only thing the government puts an expiration date. When you're going to see a date on that, that is a best buy date. That's an arbitrary date that the government sets to go ahead and have for food items. It's also now done as a marketing tool. Because let me ask you a question. Anybody kick off with, oh no, this is expired, and you throw it away, what's the first thing you do? You go buy another one. Does it necessarily mean it's bad? Absolutely not. Don't depend upon your refrigerator. For sure, some of these things. What's the hardest thing we keep during storms? Electricity. And if you only lose power, whether you have a generator or not, generally the food will only last about 3 days. So the first 3 or 4 days, you're going to cook everything that's landed in your refrigerator, right? And in your freezer. And you can eat good for about 2 or 3 days. Even if you have, I've got ice chest. I'm going to put ice. You know what the formula of ice is? Water and electricity. Okay? So you can't count on that. So don't count on your refrigerator. When people don't realize, When it comes to electricity, you mostly realize that it's a situation that electricity can be shut off from states far away or even out of this grid. There's a national control grid, and somebody can hit one button and shut off most of this United States. There's nothing you can do about it. You can call Tim, you can call Mike, you can call all these public officials. They can't turn it back on because it's controlled from somewhere else. Next slide. Or, generators, okay. Well, one of the things about food is, and we're going to get into that, is you need to prepare for gas. But we talked about electricity. Okay. I'm not an electrician, and what I'm giving you is information that we're told. The food bank has several large water-cooled generators. So we did a lot of research in this, and so I will share with you what we learned. Number one, water-cooled generators, if you can afford one and connect it up, they're by far your best option, but they're also the most expensive. Let me tell you why. Most water-cooled generators have a service life before you have to do any maintenance of them of over 1,000 hours. That's about 41 days. They last longer, and they're more quiet, and they require less maintenance. If you have an air-cooled one, meaning, yes, I got an automatic air, and yeah, you know, 50's going 5 days. Actually, it's 100 hours. And after every 100 hours, and that's their rule of thumb, you have to get in and change the spark plug, you got to change the oil, and they tell you in the manufacturer's guide, because Carol and I had one, and it's the fact that they tell you it's supposed to shut down for 1 hour a day. So the problem with the air coolers are, they're still good, they're a good alternative, they're a little bit more affordable, and that's not a bad way to go. Now, when you get into these, and I'll get into why, both of these units are natural gas. The natural gas network in this, remember I talked about electricity, they can shut it off for a grid. There's no national grid for natural gas. They can shut off certain pipelines. But in this area, in most, like the state of Louisiana, you notice when you're in certain areas, you have South Coast gas. If you go to the central part, it's called Central Louisiana gas. It's controlled by more regional things. And even with my friends in South Coast Gas, they said, it's almost done. We have to go cut off at central units. It's a lot harder to shut off the natural gas grid than it is on the electrical grid. So how many of you actually lose natural gas to your stove on an often basis as you do electricity? So that should tell you a little bit more reliability. It's also a case of, I'm not going to tell you one is not going to fail you, and that's not the purpose of this, but I'm trying to get you to live a little bit more comfortable and provide. Gasoline power.
If I could interrupt just a moment. If I could get you to do maybe your closing comments so we can have the other speakers. I love what you're sharing. It probably provides you more time.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Gasoline power, bad gas, storing power. Let's go through more. Run it back. Stoves, natural gas versus electric. Propane, this is why it's important. Anybody got an outside grill? Okay. The outside grill is wonderful simply because propane stores better, it's easy to get, you don't have to worry about gasoline fumes, and it's a little bit easier to transport. The nice thing is, if you had an outside gas grill and you run out of propane, you can build a fire. One more? Let's speed it up. Okay. Food supply. Expect gas. How many of you are going to turn somebody who comes back to your door and says, I need help? I didn't prepare like you did. You're going to send them away? So when you're for food, you just can't think of just you and your immediate family. You may have family members that show up. Plan on one meal a day. Back one more. I promise I'm going to speed up. One meal a day. Breakfast is king. Somebody who doesn't realize, how many of you know how to bake bread? It used to be a sample thing. You know what? Bread can be baked on an open fire. And all the supplies to make bread, shelf stable, last a long time. Next. Okay. Closing thought. This one's important. Louisiana, the biggest mistake that we made is it's never going to happen here. We're in no danger. It's going to be some major city. Let me tell you where that's wrong. And you can drag me off till I say this. Louisiana is a high-value strategic target, and I'm going to tell you why. Just a few things. Most of the United States Strategic Oil Reserve, where is it? Louisiana. You know where the control valve is for most of it? Lafourche Parish. Superport, as you know it. 15% of all the natural gas in the world flows through Lake Charles. The Mississippi River, the breadbasket of the United States. They talk about a bridge collapsing, you get two boats, nose to nose, East Government, being a block in Mississippi. Really easy. 20% of the United States oil industry is controlled right here in Louisiana. Telecommunications Center, most of you didn't know this. The national the telecommunication system for all telecommunications in the southeast Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana. I'll tell you where the building is later if you ask me. Barksdale Air Base, you know what they keep there? B-52s, B-2s. And actually Air Force One is stored there. It is the largest active air base that is in the country. Louisiana is only protected mostly by National Guard, which takes time to assemble and collect. Last one, and I'll wrap up. Like all of you, I believe it's better to be informed. You're all intelligent enough to know what is best for yourselves. All of you are capable of thinking for yourselves, and you don't have to be told what to think. I'm sorry I ran along. If y'all have questions, yes, and I'll answer questions, but thank you.
Some good information there, right? Next we have Mr. Holton. And the mic, I think you've got it right there. And supposedly our speakers are supposed to have between 5 and 7 minutes, but we'll see how it rolls, right?
Thank you very much for that valuable information. I want to echo something that you said about Louisiana being a strategic value for the whole country. One of the biggest strategic assets for this area, for the whole country, is the Thibodaux Bridge. And in the event of an emergency, the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense pulls out all the stops to protect that Thibodaux Bridge, because that is the only rail bridge that can handle armored divisions coming across the Mississippi south of St. Louis. That bridge gets knocked out. You can't move anything from Fort Bliss and Fort Hood across the Mississippi River. Huey-Long Bridge across the Mississippi River. And also, I can verify with MREs for more than 7 days. Although barbecue meatballs aren't as bad. Some of them, I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for having me back. I'm always surprised when I speak to a group that I invited back. Because usually people leave my speaking engagements with a headache. Fortunately, tonight, I think we have some good news. There's a lot of things I wanted to talk about during the course of the Q&A section. Antifa is a huge issue. I've been instructing state and local law enforcement and military and counterterrorism for 20 years now. And I've got a lot to say about that in the Q&A section. Also, I work state legislatures around the country. Have done that for probably 15 of my 20 years with the Center for Security Policy. And it's so refreshing to have a good legislature for a change at home. Well, I've never met before, just met him, but we were looking at a couple of his bills that he has. One of them is going to be a national model for the rest of the country. So you've got a really good state senator here for the issues that we one of the courses that we teach to state and local law enforcement around the country is on fentanyl. And we don't teach about fentanyl from the same standpoint that most organizations teach about fentanyl. For those of you who were at my speech here a couple months ago, you know that fentanyl is a potential weapon of mass destruction. And you talked about threats to the water supply. There's many different ways that fentanyl can be weaponized. It's been proven. The Russians did it in a counterterrorism situation way back in 2004 in the Moscow theater. And so that's, everything fits in with that border security. We have no border security, and it's intentional. There's no question it's intentional. I'm not going to get political. Biden stinks. Oops, sorry. We have no border security, and it is criminal negligence. It's absolutely criminal negligence. They're putting us at risk. not only do we have, and I don't call them migrants, I'm sorry, but the term in the law is illegal alien. It doesn't make you a the law is illegal alien. If they want to change the law, that's fine. But I'm sorry, I don't think I'm a bigot because I call them illegal aliens. That's the term in the law. All right? In addition to many different types of nationalities that are coming across the border, as I told you a couple months ago here, there are OTMs, other than Mexicans, right? And then there's a category within those called SIA OTMs, Special Interest Aliens other than Mexican. And those are folks from 34 countries of terrorism and proliferation concern. And it's all Muslim countries. And that's not a value judgment, I'm just telling you, it's all Muslim countries. And no fewer than 45,000 came here before Biden came in office. So we know those are coming in across the border. Just last week it was reported that a jihadi from a known jihadist group from Afghanistan had come across the border. He was apprehended and released, and then apprehended and then released. And he's somewhere, and probably some local sheriff's deputy or police officer is probably going to have to arrest that guy, because we know that the federal law enforcement are focused now on processing migrants coming into the country. They're not really focused on enforcement right now because they're overwhelmed. So you have those. And then, of course, we have the Chinese that are coming across. A 900% increase in the number of Chinese that have been apprehended coming across the southern border from 2022 to 2023. That pace continues in 2024. 900% increase. Now get this, we talk about, the fact that a lot of them are military-age males. Amongst the Chinese illegal aliens coming across the southern border, 94.8% military-age males. 94.8% military-age males. These are not people coming here for a better life for their family. So that's what's coming across the southern border. It all ties in. Ties into fentanyl, ties into terrorist threat, ties into so many things. So with that happy note, I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
And next we have Thibodaux Chief of Police, Bryan Zeringue.
Thank you for having me here. After what you hear, it kind of scares you, right? But that's why the intelligence that we work between the agencies and between the parishes is so important. But it's very important that you understand, as a community, safety starts at the home. It starts with you guys, to make sure you have what you can protect yourself and your families with. Then from there, it grows into the community. But the community has to work together with the police. And some communities work greatly. And the big thing is neighborhood watch. We need to bring neighborhood watch back. We need to start promoting neighborhood watch. Now, the police will help you get it started. We're not there to run it for you. Okay? Because a lot of people get misled and think, well, the police are running for it. No, we're there to assist you. And what we're trying to do, if you got a camera system that you allow us to tie into if we have to, that helps us to be able to monitor your areas too. So we're trying to do as much as we can, but it starts in the home. Make sure you have, like I said, to survive, make sure you have what you have and need. But working together to make sure your home is safe. Because the biggest thing we see with criminals, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for neighborhoods that people don't care about. Go out at home. Don't cut your grass. Cars that are broken down, sitting on the side of the road. Y'all see it, we see it. Cars broken down in yards and stuff. That's the kind of neighborhood the criminals look for. They figure if they don't care about that neighborhood, guess what? That's what we move and shop into. And that's what we deal with. We see it every day. But if you keep those neighborhoods clean, you watch out for each other, notify the police when something's not right. If it feels bad in the gut, guess what? It's probably not right. contact us. That's what we're there for. But we have to work together. And there's a lot of stuff on the market. There's a lot of inexpensive stuff on the market that you can take your home safely. Again, when we were all growing up, we didn't have to lock our houses. We didn't have to lock our cars. I've been doing this job through 43 years, and I've seen the changes. Okay? And again, we're not going back to that. We're going to have to understand we need to lock our stuff. Make sure, 9 o'clock at night, make sure everything is locked. The lights help, because they love darkness. So if you can light things up, that's what they love. Even if it's a motion light, something that will deter them to move them on. But a lot of times people keep things in the dark, they leave things in the lock. And look, all the vehicles that we had hit, and we recovered a couple of them, y'all went to New Orleans East. Okay, that's where we went. Get them in New Orleans East. We made some arrests. But the bottom line was the cars and stuff that they stole were unlocked. And that's, we watched them on camera, looking on doors. And some people just left weapons involved. Okay, so now we got to... Okay, so pick up your valuables, and I'm just giving you some quick things. Pick up your valuables. Make sure that you work together with your neighborhood. Try to start a neighborhood watch. We start them back up in Thibodaux. But it's so important that the neighbors work together and talk to each other. Because that's what the criminals are going for. And the same thing we talk about criminals. Even if we get people that do come in and try to do anything. With the intel that we have, we got real good intel. Because I got several of my people who are working with the feds and assigned to the feds to have that extra resource. And I know the sheriff does too. To have the extra resource that we need to get that intel information that we need to stay ahead of the game and not fall behind. But it's important that we understand it starts at home. We have to start at home, making sure our property is all taken care of as people. And if you got rental property, same thing. If you got rental property, make sure your stuff is rented. Make sure you keep up with your stuff, that you don't let it become blighted to where that's what the criminals do. That's the places you're going to find people going to try to move in and make a living. So, with that being said, and when we hit a little bit on fentanyl, fentanyl is a big problem. We see it all the time. And what we start to see now in East Correct, I always say that when I work on copies. If I had a terrorist mind, that's what I do to push the society. We use the drugs. And with fentanyl, we've taken marijuana off the street, don't play with fentanyl. We've taken all kind of pills that represent, looks like the real thing, fentanyl, and that's what you see with these overdoses. And he's right, stuff's coming over the border. The drugs coming across the border. From China, from India. And when it gets into the wrong hands, and even the good stuff that's regulated, if you got people doing the wrong thing for money, because you have patients do that, looking for a little hard dollar, they're going to sell their pills. Next thing you know, that's on the street. You know, it's regulated. Everybody's medicine is regulated for them. When you start putting it on the street, they do the wrong thing. That's what happens. But now we're starting to see the Clippings come back. Clippings is marijuana different from alcohol. That's what they call Clippings. So we start to see that come back. So there's a lot of stuff on the street that you'd be surprised what people are putting into their bodies. And again, if you see something that doesn't look right, you see them making some calls, and let us handle it so that we can do something about it. But it's a big, big problem between the drug problem, the burglaries and stuff. Again, they want to go into the neighborhood that they know you're being watched, and neighbors working together in contact. They're looking for places that they look like. They don't care if we can make houses here. We can set up shop here. And you'd be surprised if you don't watch, they're probably making stuff right there in the neighborhood. Even in hotels, they'll put stuff in hotels when it came to the crack. If you look at the chemicals they use to make crack or make meth, Drano and stuff like that, you probably show. That's what people put in their lives. So, with that being said, I just don't scare nobody, but the bottom line is stay on top of it. Contact law enforcement. If you see something that don't look right, that's what we're there for. We have to work together. Police can't do it all by ourselves. We have to have the other eyes of the public telling us what you see, what you hear, and we can work on that also. If we're proactive, we still need to help as well. That's what we're here for.
That's good.
Next we have Sheriff Tim.
Am I taller sitting down or standing up? always got to make the shark jokes because it's good to go. But we have Miss Lawrence DeHart, so I'll kind of recap a little bit about everything here. But what Miss Lawrence talking about food bank response, I mean, we work very hand in hand with a lot of issues. So when we look from Hurricane Ida and what we experienced there, I mean, look, that was probably the worst one that ever hit Terrebonne Parish, in my experience, since I was here. After I was in the military for 22 years, of course, I came back right after Hurricane Katrina, and as I went back to Paris, I noticed a lot of bad situations just through New Orleans, and a lot of debris, and a lot of things. But one thing about Terrebonne I noticed in our area, we're usually pretty good at recovering really fast compared to other parts of the country. And I was having a conversation about, New York had a Category 1 hurricane, you thought it was an apocalypse over there. I mean, we still barbecue. But it all depends on where you're at and what you deal with. The Midwest deals with tornadoes, California deals with a whole bunch of other stuff, with the earth falling off and all the crazy political. But that's what we deal with, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because but it's about the culture, the way we think there, the way we think here. But it's what they're dealing with, what we deal with. This is our part of the world and how we think in our culture. But with the food bank, with the preparations and what we do, I can tell you now we're far better prepared, my office and our capabilities than we were prior. Hell of a lot more. It's the things that we needed and we experienced from that, things we built now that we have. And I'll give you an example. 32 officers lost their home during a hurricane. 32. I have housing from officers. I have emergency housing from officers if we ever encounter that. They need a shower, well I have that. They need one, well I have that. So we've been able to prepare to sustain. We used about 9,000 gallons of fuel a month during Hurricane Ida Timber. We had about 24,000 gallons we can sustain for about 3 months. Our office at Hurricane Ida Timber to still continue to provide services to our community and our people. And that allows us to continue this tempo without resupply or more independent on what we do every day within our water vehicles. If y'all notice, I have pickup trucks now as police vehicles. You know why it makes sense? Because we got forced drainage and we can't get there with a sedan.
What's the
With a
white
four-wheel
folks in
drive,
your place?
and we can you hear me?
No matter.
Okay. Usually I don't even need ones. But anyway, so, with some of the preparations we've had that we're able to do, we can do a lot more now, and I feel a lot more confident if we ever go into a situation like that. We do prepare, and this is about things that we do today in our everyday business and law enforcement, but we can also double it as emergency services during a hurricane or during a catastrophic event. We had another conversation, oh my God, what if the power goes out for 3 weeks? Well, most of us have generators, and we usually experience that every time there's a hurricane. Most people have power out about 3 weeks. Usually that's about the average 2 or 3 weeks. Something that was a little different that we experienced in Bayou, well, the water pressure wasn't there. People realized that, you know what, I'd rather have water than have electricity. And I think during those times we learned a little bit, so that lesson, and have plenty of water. Have plenty of water, whether it's toilet water or swimming pool water. I took a bath in the swimming pool. So make sure you're prepared there and have these things. As far as national security, he was talking about a lot of issues. I have an intel division that works for me, and I put it together when I can. So we take a look at everything that's going on nationally, and I got some good nosy people on social media that pulls a lot of intel together. And so we put a lot of things together, from drugs to gangs and everything, and we have things that can read algorithms and read language that they create on these social media, and we're getting a lot of results in Terrebonne Parish and throughout the surrounding areas. So we're working with a lot of agencies, and when we talk about chief, look, there is no border among Terrebonne and Lafourche. If something happens in that parish, we're coming. And without being said, I think he said, well, thank you. The other day, they had a situation. Thank you. Well, my guys don't need to ask me. Just go. Go help, because their criminals don't have no borders. They come right across, whether it's Lafourche, Terrebonne, whatever. We there to help. So there's a lot of mutual aid that we go back and forth with our resources. And any equipment, anything that we have in my office, it's open to Lafourche, as it's open to Holton Police Department, or it's home the state police that's doing anything in our parish. We have resources, and we definitely share those resources. It's just not the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. It's for anybody or in law enforcement, so we can do our duties. We owe that to our community, and we owe to continue to do that. Yes. Okay, so there was a question the other day that they asked me. So, well, you might get a question about deputizing. Well, for me to just outright commission somebody and give them a gun and badge and say, go forth and do great things. Well, you know what, if I do that, that would open up a serious liability to my office. So, Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement posts, we can't really just do that. However, I do have emergency responders, response cards that I do issue, and these guys, unlike heavy equipment, they have things under an emergency circumstance that can get them back to the parish. They can provide resources so we can get our parish back in line in any catastrophic event such as occur. So just outright commission someone, it requires me training, to go to the academy. I have about 25 reserve officers, but they've all been through the police academy. And they all work about 12, 15 hours a month helping our officers. So, but that's a criteria, because if one lawsuit that we deal with all is failing to train. And if I just give somebody a gun and a badge and they get out there, the first time something happens bad, you know, then we're looking at massive lawsuits. So there's a lot of things that the commission puts together, and that's the reason why it's more protecting lawsuits, not a conspiracy over trying to take police officers off the street. Look, let me tell you something. I've got a bunch of Marines I serve, but if it ever got that bad, all I do is make one phone call and the Marines will land. So I think we'll be all right. But anyway, thank you all, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. And I'll say this. When you take oath, I take this obligation freely without mental reservation or purpose of evasion. The oath I took as a military officer, and the oath as I take today. What I'll guarantee is the tough situations, you can't squirm away from it, and you have to face it, and you have to stay on the side of the Constitution. And there ain't nothing up for discussion on that, and it ain't debatable.
And now, Senator Mike, and if you could work into what you're fixing to share, we have a couple of questions about can illegal aliens register to vote in Louisiana. And I think you probably have a comment for us on that.
Yes, I do. I have bill number SD 436, which is a real simple bill, to jump right into it, but it's a real simple bill that I thought it was real simple. But it took almost 2 hours to get it out of committee yesterday, and it's going to be going to the floor next week. And guess what that bill was? It's that you must be a U.S. citizen to be able to register to vote. It was really unbelievable. But what's happened with all the judges and everything, the liberal judges now, the whole conversation was, well, that's in our Constitution. It is in our Constitution. But what the judges are doing now, they're saying, well, it's in your Constitution, but it's not in law. So they're making it a question now. They're trying not to say that we all grew up that our Constitution was law. So everything, that's why you see all the gun laws being passed and everything else. So I said, well, we better protect our voting rights. And so I made a bill that strictly says in law, you have to be a U.S. citizen. And so it took quite a bit of time to get it off out of committee because I had so many red cards against it. Only had like 2 green cards. So we need to pay attention to what's going on at the Capitol, and we got to get more support on getting green cards there. Which brings me to the next bill, SB 279. That's my bill to stop illegal aliens from driving on our highways in the state of Louisiana. Actually, I didn't get it out of committee last week. I had to defer it to get more help because I had 72 red cards and not 1 green card. Now, the thing about it is, those 72 red cards was lawyers from New Orleans and all over with illegals that came in our state capitol that testify against me.
Yeah, that's about right.
So it's just unreal. And so the lawyer said, this senator's trying to pass asinine legislation. So when I got back to the mic, I simply said, if I'm trying to pass asinine legislation to save my citizens of my state of Louisiana, maybe I'm in the wrong place. So I think that if we don't stand up soon, a lot of things are going in the wrong direction and we need some help at the Capitol. If we got to fill the Capitol up, where every room's got to be filled with good conservative people who care about our country, we need to have that happen soon. I got another bill that Chris was talking about, SCR 5. It was a resolution. What that resolution does, it says that every law enforcement agency in the state of Louisiana to make sure there's no Chinese police stations opened up in the state of Louisiana. It is unbelievable that half the Senate didn't know what Chinese police stations were. Now, where it's really important, right now, at the count that they have, there's 47,000 Chinese nationals that's in our country. And that's what they need the police stations for. And they're opening them up left and right. And so, if our law enforcement, the minute they hear that somebody's opening up a Chinese police station, it's going to be a law against it. So, that's the other thing. The next thing is, if I was going to show y'all, 2 minutes, I wanted y'all to put this on the screen, but this is the state of Louisiana. That's everything that flows through the state of Louisiana. It's unbelievable. That's why Louisiana is so important. That's what flows through the state of Louisiana. Yeah, I sent it to your phone. I just did. But you take a lot.
Senator Mike, that flows traffic, traffic or product?
That's all products. It's all products, natural gas, crude oil, everything you can think of that flows through the state of Louisiana, that how important the state of Louisiana is. It's our Port Fourchon creates $500 million a day to our U.S. GDP. And that's why it's so important to get the Highway 1 finished, all the trucks and everything to help our country. Because, you know, right now, all of that truck, $90 a barrel. You know, when Trump was in office, it was $40 a barrel. He's used up all of our reserves. It's just unbelievable that we're in the shape we're in. And that's why I'm at the Capitol fighting as much as I can. And talking about fentanyl. Our government fought harder to keep ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine out of our hands over fentanyl. So we got a lot of paying attention to do. I'm here for the fight. If y'all come up with anything that I'm missing, because I'm not catching everything, but I'm always trying to do the stuff that we really need to control to get us going in the right, to make sure the state is strong. So thank y'all very much.
I'd like to just read over there if y'all may answer questions. I'd like to add that, you know, it is important to call your senator and your representative, but what you really need to do is contact all senators and all representatives, not just yours. They all need to hear from you. And we, the people, we send out messages and texts about bills that are coming up so you can make it easier for you to contact your legislators. If they don't hear from you, they don't think you care. So it's important that you communicate. It is your responsibility to communicate to all, and in Greek that means all senators and all representatives, so that they can give the desires of their people governor, that can get signed and get through. So we need to pick up the mantle.
Yeah, look at Danielle addressed that about our website, and right here for you. Here you go.
Hey, I'm Danielle. If you would go to our website and sign up to opt into the emails like Vicki talked about, then you can get updates on legislation that we're following. We have a great legislative committee led by my dear friend Debbie Melman. She and her team are working really hard to track the legislation, let you know where pressure needs to be put, when it needs to be put, and I'm following it as well. I'll put in a plug. If you are a podcast listener or would like to know what's going on with the legislature, you can follow us on this. The podcast name is The State of Freedom. It's on all major platforms, so if you're a YouTube person, oh, there I am in the back. Thanks, April. Yeah, you can follow us wherever you listen to a podcast, and we're really trying to stay on top of things. But there were, Senator Casey, 1,200 bills, 1,100 bills pre-filed, so that's before the cutoff date for legislation. So when I say that we're drinking from a fire hose, it's never ending. So if you see something that means something to you, just email info@wtpbayou.org and help us track it, because it's going to take all of us.
We've got several questions that have come in. We probably won't get to all of them, but we'll do our best here. One of the questions that came in was the squatter situation that we're seeing on TV is very alarming. And one of the people here tonight said we go out of town sometimes for 4 to 6 weeks, and we take precautions, alarm systems, and so forth. So what rights do we have as citizens here in Louisiana versus the squatters that might come in? And there's a second part to that question is that why are people being made to change? Why are people not being made to change their Texas plates? We were told we had to change ours almost immediately when we moved here. Our neighbors have been here for 3 years and still have Texas plates and obviously Texas insurance. When I called and asked the Terrebonne Police Department, I was put on hold for 30 minutes and then was hung up on. I never called back because I never called the emergency line. So whoever would like to answer that on our panel? The squatters, yes.
All right. As far as the squatters, there's no squatter law. They had a guy, he wasn't from Louisiana, obviously, so he took it upon himself to change the lots of houses for sale. And I guess the real estate agent went there and he said, somebody's in this house. And he thought he had squatters laws when he realized his new address was 1311 Frank High Road with the jail. Because that's the only authorized freaking house. Well, it don't happen. I mean, you're going to have issues like that. People may come here and think that these type of laws apply. I mean, I feel bad. People buy a home, somebody moves in, so now you can't get them out. I mean, look, there's laws when it comes to people that are renting between landlords, and there's a process, and there's a legal process there. But when it comes to somebody just thinking they're going to go in this house, it's empty, I'm going to occupy it, and you're going to have to go through all this legal process to get me out. Well, I got news for you. Break it in. You're going to go on the income. That's how it's going to work. So I think we're pretty good on that.
The license plate.
Excuse me, Chairman. The whole squatters issue is not a spontaneous issue that just cropped up out of nowhere. It started on TikTok, like a lot of bad things. And you've got illegal aliens on TikTok instructing people about how to go about becoming squatters. And I guess there's other states that don't have good laws that allow that. So this is part of the whole border security fiasco. And it's not something that's accidental. People didn't just all of a sudden start moving into people's vacant homes. They were taught how to do it on TikTok.
All right. Did any of you have an answer on the Texas
Texas
plates?
tags.
Yes, all right.
All right, talking about again, you see somebody driving down the road with Texas tags, although we just can't stop them because you have Texas tags. We have to have probable cause to stop, so we have to have a violation to pull you over. Once we pull those individuals over, we start looking into them, checking registration, driver's license, questioning or to find out if they're here. Military is exempt, the military personnel is exempt in the military. But when it comes to that, once we find out they've been here for a long period of time, yes, we get cited for that, and it doesn't put the immediate change. But we have to have the proper cause. I just can't stop somebody with a Texas tags, and then they will say we profile. So we have to have a violation to be able to stop. Once we stop them, we start investigating and find out more what's going on, then we lead to make sure that they get issued citation, required to go to court, we still have to prove at that point in time that they changed their plate and register.
Thank you. Daniel has something for
Sure. Well, before I ask you, Senator Facey, just a note also on the squatters. There's 3 pieces of legislation we're currently tracking that are anti-squatter bills that would criminalize squatting. Currently, squatting is a civil lawsuit only, I believe, and so you have to file a formal complaint, and it takes some time. But if it becomes criminal, then I believe the sheriff would be able to have more flexibility in dealing with it. So we're tracking those. One of them has been heard. It's probably the less good of the 3. That one would require a 5-day waiting period, where the other 2 would not require a waiting period. You just simply say, this person does not belong in my house or on my property, in my business, and they have to go. So we're tracking those pretty closely. I was also requested to add that it's very good for you to just keep an eye on the way that your representatives and senators are voting. Senator Facey, you've been voting well, thank you. It's important because the pressure from you matters, and the more emails they get, the more texts they get, the more social media pressure they get, the more they're going to do what you want them to do. So please do that. And lastly, Senator Facey, you talked about your proof of citizenship bill, and the effective date of that, unfortunately, is not until January 2025. So how can we change that to make it more useful?
Well, I had to play politics on that. To get the Secretary of State to back me up in committee, she felt that she needed to postpone it until January to give her enough time, because all of the cards and the cards you fill out, all of that stationery has to be changed. And she said it's going to take her longer than being able to make it by the August election, I think, is what we needed. And that's why I wanted it to go into effect in 30 days. But, you know, we went back and forth for about a week, and I even delayed the bill until we finally come to a compromise. And because she doesn't want to promise something she can't uphold. Totally understand that, and we all should. But if y'all put enough pressure, maybe I can get rid of that amendment, and then we can do it. But it's a game. It's a game at one point, but it's serious in the next, because I really wanted it for our presidential election.
Yeah, and Senator Facey, with all due respect to our Secretary of State, Nancy Landry, the government was able to mandate vaccine passports for people. I'm not, this is not against you, I'm just saying to the Secretary.
That's what y'all have to do.
Exactly, yeah. If they can do that in a couple of weeks, I bet they can turn out the requirement for citizenship.
You know, I even felt if we had to spend a little extra money to get a and so I would be glad to, I'm on finance committee, so I'd be glad to push a little extra money that way to make sure we can get it done. And because I'm sure I can get the rest of the committee to sign off on that. So, but if y'all push her hard enough, I'll be glad to pull the amendment off when it gets to the floor.
Thank you. We'll send out an email, we'll post on our website the Secretary of State's email address.
Now moving on to the next question is for, we will see, have there been any reports of unidentified aircraft, including sophisticated sophisticated drones in our region? Whoever would like to take that one? Unidentified aircraft or sophisticated unidentified drones in our region.
All right, so, well, as far as drones, I have a drone program. And I use it for law enforcement and many other things. So I have drones, so I can tell you some of the technology we're dealing with right now. I'm probably better off like this. But anyway, I'll do this anyway. So some of the systems we're looking at right now for drones, or when it comes to areas that secure, especially in our capacity, we have technology now that we're investing in, and I mean it's through a grant, but my pilots can actually control any drones that move in an area where it should be. So we can take control of that drone and land it, and GPS for the guy that was operating, or who was operating, if they're doing something evil, and figure out where they're at and deal with it as well. So we're doing a lot of work there. As far as aliens and UFOs, you gotta leave that to Area 51.
DeHart next, and then Senator.
For a while, I sat on the Terrebonne Airport Commission, so while I can't tell you about direct events, let me tell you how important that airport is. That airport is one of the largest, it's one of the 3 largest general aviation airports in the entire state. They average anywhere from 4,500 to 6,000 flights a month. Now, we talked about strategic. You're in a situation where if I wanted to be bad and I wanted to come into this country, into this state very easily, it's one of the closest general aviation airports of any major size next to the coast. In addition to that, they have not 1 but 2 runways that are large enough and heavy enough to handle C-130 transports. Okay, so meaning if I want to hurry up and get some bad stuff in here, not a problem. Then this general aviation airport has something called an ILS, meaning instrument landing system. So from way out, all you have to just do is punch in the code and it's going to bring you plus or minus 1 foot to landing at the runway. It is basically, they're taking steps to improve security around it. Basically, it's got a fence. And I'm telling you, they also have, if I want to land, of course, here, I don't have to bring fuel because there's hundreds of thousands of gallons because of PHI and the other helicopter organizations and the other operations that act there. There are aircraft mechanics, and guess what? There's actually civilian aircraft that can be converted very easily. So again, if you don't think that bad things can happen in your back door, that's about as backdoor as it gets.
I'd just like to add one thing to, if we're going to talk about drones and everything. I have put a program together where the home of Terrebonne Airport is working to be the largest drone airport in the country. I've got $3 billion last year, $2 million the year before. In this session, I just passed a bill that's going to the House. It's going to name that Louisiana is going to create vertiports, because a lot of the new aircraft take off vertically and don't use the runway. So we're going to be, state of Louisiana should be on the top of this to get federal funding down to create all the vertiports throughout the state. And that way we're going to have all the different size drones, and so it will give us a lot of extra protection. We're the leader in vertical takes-offs in the world with all the PHI and all the helicopters that take off. So that's why I was pushing hard to put, we're going to have the first state to be all vertiports. Thank you.
With regard to unidentified drones flying over critical infrastructure, that's something that we've been involved with around the country in combating it, not actually been involved in it. But many states now have passed laws for trespassing, that if you fly a drone over critical infrastructure, that's considered trespassing. What has happened in this area frequently, very frequently, is drones flying over oil and gas facilities, and it's being done by environmental groups. And so that's something that has happened in the petrochemical corridor for a long time. It's been discussed. I don't know if there's any legislation about it that's ongoing, but that is an issue here in South Louisiana.
Before you sit down, Chris, we have another question for you here, and this is kind of broad, it's already been touched on some, so I'm not exactly sure what the heart is behind it. Can you give us some information on what's happening in our backyard right here?
Well, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about this. You've seen a lot of these pro-Hamas demonstrations around the country. And these are, you know, we've had a couple of them in the New Orleans area. I don't think it's a big issue here in this metropolitan area, but it's not what it seems, because it's mainly motivated by the left. We've seen an alliance between Antifa and Muslim Brotherhood organizations like CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, the Islamic Society of North America, the Muslim Students Association, Students for Palestine. They basically had a riot on Tulane campus. You may have seen that in the news almost a year ago now. Yes, it was. They blocked the highway on I-10 in Jefferson Parish, the ones, I'm not sure which one it was. That's something that they're doing around the country. They blocked the Golden Gate Bridge. We expect to see more of that. We expect to see more of Antifa using these types of tactics. We also are seeing more violence from Antifa. While in 2020 it was mainly riots and things like that, you may have seen just last week or maybe the week before, they indicted an Antifa member for firebombing the Attorney General's office in Montgomery, Alabama. You may have heard of the organization Jane's Revenge, which attacks Catholic churches and pro-life pregnancy centers. They apprehended people who were doing that. Turns out they were Antifa members doing business as Jane's Revenge, which is not a big surprise. Those types of small-scale extremist attacks, using pipe bombs, things like that, are something that Antifa is probably going to ramp up as we get closer to the election. And so there is an Antifa affiliate in New Orleans, there's an Antifa affiliate in Baton Rouge. In New Orleans, it's called Take Them Down NOLA. Those are the people behind pulling down the Confederate monuments. If you think it's about the Confederacy, you're wrong. The head of Take Them Down NOLA is a self-proclaimed Maoist. He's a follower of Chairman Mao, the biggest mass murderer of the 20th century. Killed more people than Hitler, Stalin, and Pol Pot combined. That's Antifa. So that's kind of what's happening in our backyard.
All right, I don't know who wants to handle the next one, but it's kind of a question, statement, question. So, Terrebonne Parish teachers are being told we can be sued personally if we do not provide illegal alien parents with interpreters at our school. Why are our citizens being targeted for this? We cannot ask if students/parents are legal or illegal. No vaccines are required. They get free breakfast and lunches with taxpayer dollars. This needs to stop. A statement. And then more Spanish-speaking students and English-speaking students at recess, and more coming out every week.
You're in school, remember?
I'm in school. Yes. That's why I asked which one of you guys would like to answer.
We'll let you answer.
Thank you so much. Well, I think that, and again, I'm very new with District 6, but I think the position that the teachers are taking, from what I hear, and I don't hear from a lot of them at this particular point, but they're focusing more on the children than on the parents. It is true. Your tax dollars are going to pay for these kids to be educated. Your tax dollars are going for these kids to be fed, and maybe the only meal they get. But again, if this is something that as a community, as a state, that we find that we're not in favor of, this is when we go to our legislators, the people that we put in office, to change these things. So, we've got to make that difference. Yes, Danielle. We've got a mic here for you.
bill that's been brought forward. I believe it's passed. Maybe you can help me, again, is SB 208, I think. It would prohibit any locality, any community in the state of Louisiana from being a sanctuary for illegal immigrants. So we're watching that one closely. It's had good traction, but I think this may address that in some way. I don't really know. I mean, I guess 5 kids or 5 families does not necessarily make a sanctuary. Maybe we need to understand what a definition of a sanctuary policy is, but that is one bill that is trying to address this issue. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, no, the sanctuary city bill will not address what you're addressing. The sanctuary city bill basically says that local law enforcement and agencies of that city are not to cooperate with the federal government on enforcing immigration law. There's only one city in the state of Louisiana that's a sanctuary city. I bet you can't guess which one.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next question. What type of communication will work if we lose the power grid? All right, there's a mic right there.
Okay, we learned some very hard lessons in Ida. In our works with the EEOC, everything is designed on internet-based, and what we didn't realize was that when we had some very sophisticated radios that allow us not only to talk in the parish, literally around the state, they are electronic relay stations, okay? So we lost communications for Hurricane Ida for 3 days. What the EEOC ended up doing, thank you, Sheriff, he was critical in this in the volunteer fire departments. We used old-fashioned VHF radios to try to go ahead and to relay. Now, you and I getting VHF, or you can go ahead and if you want to get the old-fashioned, ham radios, they work well. And they'll get you outside. If you need to communicate, and that's something that should be in your kit, the little radios that you get, they got about a 14 or 15 mile radius if you want to communicate with your family. Because if you think electricity is quickly, easily to be turned off, they can turn these off individually. If they don't like you, they can shut it off and try to communicate with your family. We don't use these at food bank. We use the little handheld radios to communicate around the facility, but they do have a limit. You can get into some other ones, but the sheriff will tell you what they use also.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that, just for law enforcement, just to tell y'all, I got Thibodaux, and there's a special tower that after Katrina, law enforcement put up, and state police put up towers all around the southern state to try to get it. Thibodaux was short one, so I got them appropriated $800,000 in that last year. They're in the middle of building that tower right now, so we're trying to get better for law enforcement to be able to talk between, the fire departments and everything else. So we got that in the works, but for us individually, you need to get yourself prepared.
Thank you. Just to know, oh, you're going to share? I'm sorry, go ahead.
As far as law enforcement communication, we have a 700 man. I have repeaters, I have generator backup plus natural gas, and I have an old school antenna that we put up where we can actually kind of line of sight with basically old school walkie-talkies. But our radios we can easily flip and communicate under certain circumstances. I mean, from the past where you rely on those cell phones and everything, and yet we still got old CB radios we can use. So we have the means to communicate, and we've experienced it during Ida when some of our towers got damaged, and we were able to put some emergency towers up to communicate. We have partnered with some at AT&T for the FirstNet, where they actually put balloons up where we were able to actually get cell service. We get other satellites, so we get cell service here when nobody else could. So we had other alternate means of communication. We partnered with a lot of emergencies, so we can communicate, so we can still function under emergency circumstances. So, all right, I guess we still got stringing cups we can use too if we need to.
I just want to make sure we thank Senator Bessie, because Big Mike helped me out on that tower in Thibodaux, and also Representative Zeringue and Representative Crawford. So it was unique to how we had no communication, none. We went back to the high band, but again, it was still rough. But again, without the help of the senator and representative from our area, that would not be possible. So that tower is in the process of going up. And they're telling me, Motorola is telling me, that if everything stays on track, weather-wise, we'll have it up and running before hurricane season.
Just for your information, Homeland Security for Terrebonne Lafourche were contacted several times about being here at the meeting tonight, and they did not respond. Just wanted to put that out there before the next question. How active and informed is Homeland Security in our area, and does local law enforcement work with them on a continual basis? Pass on the mic. There you go.
And I'll give the mic a lot tonight. So I have, we call task force officers. They're commissioned to me, they work with me. But they're more of a liaison with Homeland Security. I have EEA task force officers. I have officers with the U.S. Marshal's Office that are commissioned to work for us. They're on my payroll, they work for me, but they're liaison there. So when it comes to resources and needs, and if we have to chase down a criminal in another location, we're going to chase him down and drag his ass back here and bring him to justice, because that's not going to happen here. So, I'll put a board in the jaw, that's the ring. But the reality is, I do have task force officers. We do communicate a lot when it comes to the narcotics and a lot of other things that's happened here. And the partnership has worked pretty well, especially when things are coming out of Texas and we can track it. And my task force officers that are commissioned with us, they're also commissioned with these agencies, so it's become a pretty effective resource, not only in terrorist crime, but just moving out in other areas. We had some fugiitives we were looking for, and that committed some crimes here. Our task force officer that is commissioned with us, and he works for me, and he's also working with the U.S. Marshal's Office. We're able to work with him, find a guy pretty fast, and bring him to justice. So we have a pretty good relationship there. We communicate well, but they are government entities, so they have their rules, and we have a little bit less bureaucracy a lot of times, but we're able to navigate through that and make things happen.
All right, thank you. Do you want to add something on that too?
I thought I saw you raise your hand. Okay, look here, we've got DeHart wants to share something.
Yeah, basically, I'm the same way as the sheriff. I have 2 people assigned to DEA, which they're on the payroll, but they work with the DEA. I have 2 people assigned to ATF, 1 with Secret Service, and got 2 with Homeland Security. So we all work closely with our federal departments.
A division of the Homeland Security is, if you know here in Terrebonne Parish, it's called TOSAP, and in Baton Rouge it's called COSAP. We refer to it as the Emergency Operations Center, especially during storms. I will tell you that they have an amazing group of people that work there. And for more than 6 years, I've ridden out storms and worked with these people, and mostly those are staff positions from Terrebonne Parish. But the food bank has positions not only with the EOC, but with the sheriff. I will tell you that there is a different outlook and a different position as to what they want to do in emergencies. And I'm telling you that if you want more people-related issues where TOSAP is more answered to by the parish president and the director of TOSAP, Tim Soignet, is a little bit more responsive to what the people are doing. Not that they're not, I don't. But there is a little bit of a difference in what their objectives and what they do. We have some very dedicated, and I'm honored to be a part of TOSAP, but the operations are both different, and their abilities to get to resources to people are very different. That way, if something breaks out, I will tell you that my board has voted unanimously that if a catastrophe or an event or unrest comes in, we don't have the security to go ahead and do handing out those people. So my board has voted to basically turn the food bank over and its operation to Tim Soignet.
Also, be fortunate enough that the emergency preparedness guy that handled items for Thibodaux, Thibodaux, is also now in charge of COSEC. So we have someone from our area who's overseeing the whole operation of COSEC.
Very good. The next question that is coming in is, have you seen illegal aliens in our area? And I think Mr. DeHart answered that, yes, thousands. And see if so, have they caused any problems, and are they breaking laws? Now, that's one of our officers answer that. And then the third part of this is, I read that you should carry a weapon with you, where with everything going on these days, is that recommended? And what about realistic, but fake guns? And you'll have some answers on that. Just to let you know, at the Sheriff's Rifle Range next Thursday night, they are giving some education because of the concealed carry law on what and how you should approach that. And I think the particular one that's already set up is already filled up. But if you request, and enough people request, they will put on additional education to help you to know what to do. So our law enforcement development.
What was the first part of the question?
First part is, have you seen illegal aliens in our area, and if so, are they causing any problems or breaking the law?
Well, just because of my bill last week, one of the judges called me, and he's fighting at least 20 illegals in his courtroom a week with traffic violations. And so there's really nothing that he can do without, it gives them a fine, but that doesn't get them from stop driving. And that's what my bill does, it tries to get them to stay off the road. And if they get detained in a traffic accident, or if they get just a traffic violation, part of my bill is to pick up the vehicle they're driving so they can't drive.
What about guns or fake guns?
Fake guns? Well, as far as illegals committing crimes, I mean, we get them from time to time, like anything else that's going on, from violent acts. I mean, we've had some second degree. We had a few. Sometimes it was among the same group, because I guess they drink a little too much and have a party, and maybe get a little too much on tequila. I don't know, but not to be serious. A lot of times, it's really nothing there, and there's a little bit of language barrier. I do have Spanish-speaking officers, so we're able to translate pretty well. But sometimes it was among them that had domestics, and so we dealt with some of the domestics, and there was that language barrier. She didn't want to say nothing, and of course, he got arrested as a result because of domestic violence. It doesn't matter, they get to break the law, things happen, and accountability. So it's been pretty much consistent with other crimes that's happened. It's kind of amazing.
I was going to say, when you do Mexican, they again drive the license no. But when you're dealing with them, especially, they're scared of the police because you can't trust the police over there. So they're really scared of the police when they see the police here. No, not that kind of special treatment. I'm just saying they're scared of them. Scared of. A lot of times they don't want to report crimes, especially if they're a victim to a crime. They're scared to report that crime because they're scared they can be deported. Okay. A lot of times they can't be illegal, they can't put their money in a bank, they can't do any of this stuff, so they carry a large amount of cash. So a lot of times that's what you see a lot of, where they get robbed because of the groups they're hanging around with, they get robbed.
And you guys can maybe speak to the gun issue, and I think one of the most important things, and I'm not trying to speak for you, is if you're going to have a gun, you need to know how to use it, and you need to know what the right approach is and when to use it. As far as fake guns, I don't know that I'd recommend pulling a fake gun on anybody that doesn't want to get shot. But I'm not the expert.
And again, remember, Louisiana's always been open carry. You can open carry, okay? Open carry ain't just like I got mine. That's open carry, okay? Let know you got it like the West. But the thing about concealed, when this thing passed constitutional, okay, I'm all for that. My big factor that I played, that I really was against, is not having the proper training and understanding how to use that weapon. That's the thing that bothered me most. And I said, you know, you can pass everything you want. If you do something and you don't know what you're doing, and you injure somebody, next thing you know, you sit in court with a civil suit. And they can take everything you own. They can say what they want. I mean, the bottom line is, get the training, and the sheriff's office training. Let's get the training and do it the right way. I got no problem with it, but I think training is important. But look, I've seen people buy guns, get on a race, don't even know how to use the gun. You know, so what's going to happen with that is that's not going to get used on them. So it's best to get the training and understand the weapon and get something that, because people say, what kind of gun to buy? But when you're going to use it, you feel confident.
There you go. I'll just add a little something to that. We did have a second bill that if you get the training, you can get insurance to protect, you know, to back you up. So the push is really for everybody to get the training, but, you know, we're trying to follow the rest of the states that are pushing for just, you know, that you can have concealed carry, because that is your right. That's part of the Constitution. But at the same time, the training is very important. Everybody needs the training, so that's why the second bill that went through, it just requires it. It says if you get the training, you can buy insurance to protect yourself, and that's a very important part. Yeah, they're trying to pass to make a big area where you can't carry a gun, and that's probably where you need it.
So on the issue, you know, people ask us, what do you think? Well, first of all, I'm the second amendment guy. There you have it. I took it over many years ago. On the Constitution, the American citizen needs to realize what our forefathers fought in our Constitution. It's a responsibility of everybody. When you exercise any right our forefathers get, and men have died on the battlefield for, you take responsibility. So if you're going to arm yourself, take responsibility to make sure you do it, because there are laws. If you're criminally negligent and you shoot somebody, you're going to be in a courtroom, either you'll spend the rest of your life in jail for being criminally negligent, because you think you exercise the right, it doesn't give you your freedom just to start blasting and praying on those type of issues. So there is a great responsibility. So one, I would highly encourage training and awareness and know. And the second thing, people still own property, and they own property, and so when it comes to exercising these rights, you still have to respect somebody from a private property owner that says, you know what, I don't want that in my property. I don't want that in my business. And that's his right. So you have to respect those things. So you respect private property, and respect the wishes of whether it's a business or just a guy that want it. But, you know, you still have open carry. And now, as they do, just make sure you're adequately trained and understand. So when you exercise these great constitutional rights we have, be very familiar with the responsibility you take when you do that. And there is a responsibility, right? If you're going to carry a weapon, carry one you're comfortable with, but more importantly, make sure you understand how it functions and be very proficient with it if you're going to use it. And that's pretty much our stance as far as enforcement, and that is a great concern. I mean, especially if something happens, you shoot in whatever direction. And that can be a dangerous situation, so people need to understand the responsibility that comes with it.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Lawrence, you mentioned your kids earlier. What should be in our survival kit?
Some things I haven't talked about. A first aid kit. You know, there's one things that we learned again from Ida, and then our first we found out. We lost the hospital, okay? And I got rushed to the hospital at that point. Stress. You can't just survive on energy drinks and coffee. I'm the poster child for that one. Anyway, but there are certain things that I saw in there that there are some great trauma kits, especially on blood. And some people that are on by an axe and a chainsaw did major cuts. They got compression, bleeding gauze in there, and things like that. In addition to that, cash. You want it? And, you know, ATMs are not going to work. Cash. Some of the other things in your kit is, and it doesn't sound silly, but a plan. I have 3 children, 2 that live here and 1 that lives in Texas. I promise you, they know when something happens, where to go, where to meet, and where to communicate. Some of the other things that you want to do outside of that is, hate to say blankets, campers are really fine, but just communicate with your family and let them know. But first aid kits are probably the largest one. And, the most important one, a hand crank radio. They can, $49, you can get it and do that. And if you absolutely need electricity for something, they're kind of pricey. They're about $500. You can get these little solar kits that will charge a battery, and you can charge, some little things. It will not run an air conditioner, ladies. I'm sorry. And there is no makeup in your emergency kit. Okay. Okay.
All right. And then another question we have: who do we look to if our water supply is poisoned or if some major attack happens? Who do we turn to? I've said it 50 times, but let's go ahead.
Yourself. That's why I'm here tonight. Unfortunately, if things come in, let me ask you a question. Even if something happens as close as Houston, Texas, 5 hours away, what do you think is going to happen to the grocery stores and to the supply stores in Houma, Louisiana? That's right. There is going to be a run. Food banks just don't have enough reserve. Like I said, that's 8,000 making it. You have to count on yourself. Yeah, we make it a point to carry a whole lot of water, but I'm telling you, we can't make a dent. So, quite honestly, yourself. And get used, listen to law enforcement. They're going to give you the best information. Don't pass gossip. And just listen to the information. Use your God-given common sense.
What I say to that is be your own hero and assume that no one's coming to help. And if that's your policy and someone does come to help, great. But be your own hero. Don't assume that, look, these two gentlemen do a great job. They have heroes that work for them. But there's limited numbers. And in the crisis situation, they're going to be busy with a lot of things. So you need to be your own hero.
All right. What can be done about house title debt? House title debt.
So they ID, they enact a sale of your house without you knowing.
Yeah.
Anybody want to house title theft?
I can answer that question. I'm a realtor. I just spoke to the assessor's office. Let her answer. I just spoke to the assessor's office this past week about that, because I was concerned about that, because I was starting to get mail from my.
Why don't you come up in front, lady?
I just spoke to the assessor's office this past week regarding that, and they assured me that you would certainly not have to worry about that in this area. She checked back on my records to be sure, but she assured me, she said, this is a small community, we keep on top of things. I don't think we have to worry about that here, but I still do. So she, the best advice she can give is ever so often call and check, to make sure. And that's the best they can do right now. But call and check in your own time, and like she said, it usually takes longer than most people think. If somebody's going to try to steal your property, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a process.
So the key to that is inspect what you expect. I believe they would say. All right, let's see. I think we have another couple. One more question maybe before we finish. And this has kind of been addressed already, but we're just going to ask this. How safe are our bridges in light of what's going on with boats running into bridges? And what's the protocol in case of a marine vessel collision with one of our bridges? Who takes the lead?
Okay. No bridge is going to survive a container ship running into it, first of all. How safe are our bridges? Well, depends on what happens to the bridge. The bridge is safe until it's not safe anymore. there's certain things that are beyond our control as individuals. And that's why we need policies and procedures as a nation, as a state, as a community, to make sure our critical infrastructure is safe. Because we as individuals can't necessarily ensure that our critical infrastructure is safe. And bridges are certainly critical infrastructure. We don't know what happened in Baltimore. There's a lot of conspiracy theories going around. There's a lot of theories that aren't conspiracy theories going around. The FBI is entered into the investigation. That caused a big brouhaha because now everybody thinks it's a criminal investigation. Well, negligence is criminal. It doesn't mean that it was a cyber attack. It could just be that, boat captain was drunk. We've had that happen around here. There's all kinds of different things that can happen. I don't know if you all remember, but I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, a tugboat at night hit a rail bridge over Mobile Bay, and just did enough damage to knock the bridge out. But when the first Amtrak train came around, it went off the rails into the water, and killed a bunch of people. That bridge was safe all the way up until the time that guy ran that boat into it. So look, I think that it's been shown also that a lot of nodes of our critical infrastructure are in need of updating and maintenance that has been neglected around the country. There's probably bridges out there that need to be modernized, strengthened, whatever. Which ones there are? There's so many bridges, but it needs to be addressed. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know.
I'll just add a little bit to it is, if we need a bridge replaced, go get the contractor for the Bird Bridge, because my phone never stops when that bridge.
Let's give our guests a round of applause. I'm sure everyone give yourself a round of applause for being here tonight.
I just wanted to circle back to the legislative conversation, and Senator Basie mentioned several times about red cards and green cards. And probably most of you know exactly what he's talking about, but in case you don't, when you go to a committee hearing, I just want to say I go to Baton Rouge because I'm interested in one of these bills. I can turn in a green card. I don't have to speak, but when I turn in a green card, it means that I'm in favor of his bill. If I turn in a red card, it means I'm not in favor. So what he's saying is he has nobody in support and a bunch of people that were opposing him. So, one of the things that happened, I think, with We the People is we were a small group of people that decided, you know what, maybe it's time to just stop complaining and start doing something. And we found out there's so much you can do just being you. And I think there's a lot of fear in the idea of, I can't email a legislator, or I can't go walk into the Capitol. You totally can. You totally can. And if you'll kind of watch our Facebook page, We the People Bayou Community, and become a member and get our newsletters and emails, we'll help walk you through that. Usually, if somebody's going to the Capitol, there's several of us going, and if you've got time during the day from time to time, let's go and let's support some of these bills that literally will change our lives right here at home. Because you know what? Our state is a sanctuary against the federal government that's overreaching. We need to protect our state So it can remain a sovereignty, and we can be safe here. And doing that kind of thing is how we do it. So just want to bring that up.